I'm going to be sharing with you guys today my top tips for what you really need when it comes to homeschooling your little kiddos. So stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. I'm Heidi with Heavenly Minded Homeschool, and I'm so glad you guys are here. If you are new to our channel, we would love it if you guys could subscribe. If you tap that little bell icon, you'll get notifications when new videos go out. We share lots of things here when it comes to homeschool, homemaking, biblical truth, just training up our children, all for the glory of God as we live not for this world, but for the eternal one to come. So I wanted to share with you guys a little bit of a series. I share lots of homeschool vlogs and things that we're doing, encouragement, things of that nature. And where to get started with homeschool is one of the biggest questions that I get year in and year out. And so I figured it would probably be best to just put together a little video series. The first video that came out was just kind of the why, the getting started, right? Where do we even begin when it comes to homeschool? I'll link that down below. Be sure to go and watch that if you haven't already. But today I want to talk specifically about homeschooling your little kids. So this is like your kindergarten, even first grade, really anything up to about age 8. Is where this would kind of fit in. We started homeschooling our oldest. We have 4 kiddos. They are now from nearly 17 here in just a couple weeks, all the way down to 3, almost 4. But that is our age group there. We have been homeschooling since our oldest was in the middle of first grade. He did go to public school for kindergarten. He went to public school in first grade, and then right at the winter break, we pulled him out, started homeschooling, and have never looked back. A lot of the things I'm going to be sharing with you guys are because we learned the hard way. This is not the way we did it with our oldest. Okay, we put him into public school. He went to a great public school. We're still friends to this day with his teachers. But that's not how God set this up, right? That is not how this works. And we started seeing issues and problems. We struggled to kind of figure out where to get started. I didn't have any friends that homeschooled. I didn't know about there's so much there. I didn't really have anyone to go to. So we kind of just were winging it and figuring it out. And so I feel like by the time it came to homeschool our second child, we were like, oh my goodness, there's like a 5-year gap in between our oldest and our second child. And by the time we got to her, we were able to really do things differently. And I have seen firsthand the massive difference between our oldest, where we didn't apply these principles, and the struggles that we still have to this day because of that. And then our younger girls, who we've been doing this way of homeschool since the very beginning, and it has made such a difference to their education and just the people that they're becoming. So that's why I feel so passionately about this. When people come with their little kids, kindergarten, first grade, even sometimes into second grade. Like I said, usually up until about 8 years old is what we would consider the little kids. Guys, if you've watched my channel before, you know this is where I'm going with this, but I highly recommend Better Late Than Early by Dr. Raymond and Dorothy Moore. I usually only buy used books. I buy them off of Amazon usually. I will link this down below, but if they don't currently have any, you'll see that what they do have listed is like $400 or something crazy like that. It's because this can sometimes be a hard to find book. I highly recommend you check out your local library, look around, see if you can find it. Really anything by Dr. Raymond and Dorothy Moore is fantastic. I have nearly every single one of their books, but I will link this down below. Better Late Than Early was game-changing for me. When I got this book and I read through it, it's such pure common sense that I was just like, why have we not been doing this since the beginning? This would literally solve so many problems. And so we applied these principles with our younger girls, and we've seen those rewards. So I highly recommend this. And essentially, the focus here being, instead of rushing to get our children in school, in informal learning, and all of this, let it start later. The emphasis here in their book is more so on doing life with your children instead of focusing on formal training, right? Our regular kind of standard curriculum when it comes to kindergarten or even first grade, is that by including your children in what you do, they're going to learn and they're going to grow. Most everything that I want to share with you guys here today is really doing that. So again, for this whole philosophy, they have far more like solid information that they can share, but really it does just come down to common sense, I think. And applying this method for our 3 older kiddos has truly been life-changing. All right, so all of that to say, the like top 5 things that I would absolutely recommend when it comes to homeschooling your littles, again, up until about age 8-ish, okay? I feel like around age 8, kids hit this point. We've seen it so far with our girls, that kids hit this point where they're just ready to kind of take it to that next step. Like they are desiring to read on their own, to write on their own, to start doing those things. Up until then, I offer things, but if it's not something that they are ready to dig into, we stop. It's no big deal. I don't stress teaching them to read early. I don't stress worrying about letters and writing or any of that, right? I let that come naturally. And again, if they're just not into it, that's okay. They will learn. It's not a big deal. So the first thing I would say that is so important when you are homeschooling your littles, again, first and foremost, that you are modeling how to live for the Lord. You are modeling righteous living. When they are so young, they are looking at you for how to behave, for how to act. I think all of us have seen those times where our kids start doing things that make us really upset. We're like, why on earth are you doing that? Well, they're doing that because they see you doing that. They're just reflecting, what they see being modeled to them. And so as followers of Christ, as taking this responsibility that the Lord has given us to train our children up in his ways, which he very clearly states in scripture over and over and over again, right? We go to Deuteronomy 6, from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed, when we're at home and when we're out and about, we are constantly teaching them the ways of the Lord. And so especially for our littles, them seeing our model for doing that is so important. They need to see that we sit down and we read the Bible every single day. That sitting down and studying with our church family is a priority in our life every single week, right? They need to see these things being modeled. That's why I shared in the collective, Biblical Womanhood. If you guys did not partake in that study, I highly recommend you come and join us for that. I'll link that down below as well. If you click that blue join button, you guys get access to way more videos. That's where everything's at. But that's why making sure that we, as women that profess Christ, right, that we are doing exactly what God calls us to do. And by modeling this to our children is so incredibly important. And I promise you that if you start modeling this to them when they are still your littles, it's going to make all of your child rearing years so much easier. The hardest thing is when counseling people is when they've gotten to the teenage part of life before they start going, oh man, I need to get my life right with the Lord. I need to teach these things to my kids, right? And then you have a lot of work to try to undo. You're like fighting an uphill battle the whole time. So if you can focus on one thing with your little kids, I would not tell you to worry about their reading, their phonics, their writing, their color. I would not tell you to focus on any of that. I would say if there's one thing that you can accomplish with your littles, it's to model righteous living with them. Read the Bible to them, right? Show them how to pray. Pray with them. Pray over them, right? Do all of these things. Show them what living for God looks like, okay? That would be my very first focus. Next, I would say do life together. Don't worry about curriculum. Don't worry about certain activities and all the Pinterest unit studies and all of the things. Those things are fun. They can have a place. That's fine. But day in and day out, your kids are going to learn far more by doing life alongside of you than they are a unit study or a curriculum or something of that nature. Doing life together is going to teach them so much. It's going to teach them how to have a servant's heart and to enjoy serving others, which is something we all need to be doing. It's going to teach them, they're going to learn so much, you know, colors, sorting, shapes, letters, numbers, amounts. There's so much math, science, you know, there's so many subjects that will be covered when you simply slow down enough to bring your little alongside of you and show them how to do things. That could be letting them cook alongside of you, teaching them how to prepare things on their own, letting them do chores, showing them how to take care of things, going grocery shopping, putting together the grocery shopping list. Literally, it's endless, the things that you can sit down and you just include your littles alongside of you. I know for me, I always struggle because I just want to do it myself and I'll get it done so much quicker and more efficient and whatever, but then I'm not training up my children. I love it because I know my kids are so self-sufficient in the way that they can cook and clean and order stuff and do things, right? They have so much knowledge in that because we talk about it, we discuss it. I let them come alongside of me and do stuff with me. We talk about how much things cost and how you budget them and what's a smart purchase and a not so smart purchase and are we really being good stewards of what the Lord has given us if we do this or we do that, right? I bring them alongside of me in all of that. And not only am I reinforcing righteous living, but they are getting this practical information. I do not want my children, when the time comes that they leave my nest, to have no idea how to do adult life, right? I want to be training them up from the very beginning to learn how to do these things. And it does give them such a sense of accomplishment to be able to serve others and to know how to do these things and be independent. So do life with your kids. Focus on that. The third thing I would say is read to your kids. You can always be reading. We love it. We get on YouTube and there's so many children's stories that are like audible versions, but you see the books and the picture books, you know, to go along with them. So the kids, they'll turn those on. We've used Under the Home, which those stories might be a little bit, kind of depending on the age of your kid, but Under the Home and like their kindergarten books, they have some great stories on there. And there are audible reads, the Audible links with the YouTube video linked to those as well if you wanted to listen to some classical stories on there. But read to your kids. Have time every evening where everybody snuggles up and you read. The more and more that you are reading to them, you are reinforcing grammar. You're reinforcing vocabulary. You're reinforcing so many things that are going to make them good writers when the time comes. I don't teach grammar. You guys are going to learn about this in the next video with the big kids, but there's so many things that I don't teach, but I don't need to because I read with my kids, they learn how to read, and then through doing that, they become these great writers. My children are amazing writers, and it's not because we did all of this curriculum and all of these books. Honestly, it's because I trusted my gut instinct. I finally got rid of all of that stuff after years of torturing my children, and we just use this method, and it works so great. Read good literature, and your kids are going to grow, right? The next point here that is so important is that your littles have ample playtime. Play is their work. So the majority of their day should be spent in just open playtime, preferably outdoors, right? It's so great to be out in the Lord's creation, fresh air, let them get dirty, let them do that. There's so much learning to happen there. So I try to make sure that our kids are outside the majority of every day, which they really, truly are. Summertime, we have a small window. In wintertime, we have a small window where it's too hot or too cold and they spend a little bit more time indoors. Other than that, get outside and mom, dad, play with them, right? Getting out and playing. We got a trampoline. We all get on the trampoline and play together. I get a workout and they have a blast. We get in the pool together. We just run around. You know, I sit outside and I'll maybe be reading or doing my Bible study while they're running and playing. I have lots of time inside, and the toys that we have, we are very minimal. We do not have much. Our kids have a basket. They each have 3 toys in it. That is their toys. But we have things like Legos. They make Play-Doh and slime all the time. We have things that are, we have those little magnet, friend got them, but they're those little magnetic block things. I don't know what they're called, but you put the tiles together and they're magnetic and you build things with them. Things like that can be very open-ended. So again, they're reading lots of great literature or listening to it, and then they have lots of open time to play. So you see that my kids are really into Peter Rabbit right now. So everything has to do with being a rabbit and being out in the garden and stuff like that. So doing things like that, make sure they have ample time to be playing and open-ended playing, right? Lots of things that they can create. Our 3-year-old is always climbed up to the counter and pulls out like my blender and different like kitchen things that are out and puts she finds random things that are either on the fridge or on the counters, and she's cooking. She's always cooking, right? She's opening the oven. We always have to check the oven before you cook, because she opens the oven, and that's where I keep my cast iron pan, and she'll like add Legos or weird stuff to it, and she's cooking, right? But that's her play. She just uses the kitchen as her kitchen, and she cooks and cleans and is a mommy and does different things, and it's fantastic. There's so much learning happening there. And the last thing I would say is to spend time together observing, right? Just observing and exploring nature and life in general. Go for nature walks together, right? Note out when you see things, hey, do you see that tree? The leaves are changing. Did you notice that? Or wow, do we see this bird? My kids love finding either small critters or bugs or whatever, and we will use like Google Lens on my phone. What is that? And then we look it up. Oh wow, we have European hornets, and we know so much about European hornets. I could tell you so many things. The kids love finding frogs, and then the frogs even laid eggs in some water next to our pool, and so we've watched the tadpoles grow up, and now we have more frogs. And so my kids, without me having to buy a curriculum or put it all together or do all the unit study and all of the things, my kids could tell you so much information about frogs. And it's because they're invested in this, because we slow down and we take time to be observant and to explore nature, and there's so much learning to happen in there. Again, our 3-year-old even, she's far before, time for formal learning, and she knows all kinds of these things because we explore and we talk about it and we learn about it as we go. So taking the time to do that, focusing on these 5 areas, I promise you, is going to give your littles such a rich education. You don't need to spend a bunch of money. You don't need to have all the curriculum and all the forms and all the, unit studies and activities and crafts and all of that. If you want to do some of that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't think you need it to give your children a rich education. So a few of the things that I have here that we do kind of have around the house, just at the availability to our little kiddos. I do have a basket that I keep picture books in. So they do have their own basket if they want to go sit down and do their own reading or bring a story to me or one of their siblings to have read to them. They have that. We have art supplies. So usually Dollar Tree level, but I'm talking just some blank paper or even little wooden cutouts and some paints that they can paint, markers, crayons, whatever. We do have stuff like that yes, I keep put up. But when they want to sit down at the table and do it, I pull the basket out and they can have fun and they can create. I did get these a while back, and I will link all of this stuff down below, but this is one of these things, you guys, you see the ads on Facebook and Instagram all of the time, but they are these little booklets, and if you can see the little images here and right here, do you see this? They have like divots in the paper of where you have these special pens that come with them that you like trace the lines, and then the ink will disappear down into it so you can use them over and over and over again. But we have like drawing, alphabet, math, and numbers. So not that I'm like terribly concerned about it, but I'll be like, oh look, it's the letter E. And if she is interested, they can trace the lines and work on their penmanship. So again, not that I'm too worried about it. If they're into it and they want to do it, that's fine. Sometimes they just want to do school. So I pull out a very official looking school book and go, oh, do you want to practice tracing the letters? There you go, right? You can do that. Again, we're talking about things as the days go on. So they learn things by having to read labels or do stuff like that. They start to learn how to identify these things. Also for my littles, I've always kept usually Dollar Tree level, but little workbooks. or I keep leftover workbooks from the older siblings, because especially if you have older kiddos that you are homeschooling, they start seeing other kids getting to do things and they want to do school as well. So we always keep some of these books that we keep for them to do. Now, when I say we keep for them to do, most of ours just have, oh, this one has all kinds of pictures. Most of ours just have like scribbles and pictures, and oops, not that you can see that, scribbles and pictures and things in them. So it's not that I make them sit down and page by page like, hey, let's do this correctly. If they want to do it, I am happy to show them how to do whatever it is that, you know, they're working on. Hey, you're working on red. See this? Red. And we can go through it and do that if they're interested and they want to do that. But at the same time, if that is stressing them out, and see purple and it's being colored blue, if that is stressing them out and they're not wanting to sit down and formally have to put it together, then that's fine too. I don't stress it. It's not a big deal. I just have these things available so that way if they want to work on stuff, they can, but it's not like anything is required. So for our littles, we only require family Bible study each day. Every day we sit down together as a family and we read Bible. Everything else is, like I said, doing life together, lots of time for play. I make sure we're outside in nature, we're exploring and observing. I make sure we do those things. But the only thing that is absolutely required in our house up until about age 8 is that they sit down for Bible study with us each day. Otherwise, everything else is up to me to model, to include them on, and to leave ample time for them to get out, to play, and to explore. So those are the main areas that I focus on with our littles. Again, we have seen great success with it. I know I have many friends who take the same type of approach, and they even have kids who've already graduated and are off into college and other things like that, and they say the same thing. So I promise you, relax, enjoy, have fun. Enjoy creating this just environment with a love of learning with your little kiddos. Train them up in the ways of the Lord, and I promise you, it will not be time wasted, but time well spent. So the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how we homeschool, the main things that we focus on with the big kids, and then we'll even get up into the teenagers up through high school. So stay tuned for the rest of those videos. Come and join us in the collective. You just click that blue join button below to get into our other exclusive member series. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope this served you well, and we'll see you next time. Bye all.